Hi there, and welcome to hockeycards.se, the podcast. In this episode, we will start off with new product releases. In our last episode, we did a deep dive of 2023-24 SP Game Used that is still set to release on April 3rd. This time we will look at some pre-sale pricing and some price comparisons for some of the cards from last year's SP Game Used release, the 2022-23 one. Next, it's time for our weekly update on Bedard-mania, where we will check out what the current pop count and sales prices are like for the base Young Guns cards. Finally, we will have a look at some hobby news. Please check out our website as well, hockeycards.se. It's filled with free tutorials, hobby news, and product news for hockey card collecting. You will also find YouTube resources, Instagram accounts, and a lot of useful links to more in-depth information at the site. Or join our hockeycards.se Facebook group for instant updates on what's happening in the hockeycards.se universe, as well as chatting all things hockey cards with us and the other members. All the information on how to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and how to join our Facebook group is available on hockeycards.se. Alright, next up, new product releases. 2023-24 SP Game Used is still set to release on April 3rd, and we're going to take a quick look at some release day pricing. So here in Sweden, the release day price looks like it will be roughly $223 including sales taxes. This is up more than 20% from last year's release day pricing at about roughly $40 more expensive. We've also looked at the US with the two major retailers, Dave & Adams and Steel City Collectibles. Both of them have it at $200 as release day pricing. That's excluding sales tax though, so you'll need to add the sales tax to that amount. In Canada, one of the major retailers are Clouds and Chara, and they're not listing any release day prices. They're just listing it as sold out for pre-sales. So it looks like this product is roughly equivalent in pricing in the US and in Sweden, and then most likely it would be in Canada as well. We're also going to do a price check on some of the cards that are in SP Game Used, some of the maybe more classical cards that you can expect to get, and also some of the cards that you would hope to get if you buy a SP Game Used box. So we've had a look at some of the secondary market prices for 5 of the different cards that you can get in SP Game Used. Keep in mind that the checklist for this year's release contains more than 4,000 unique cards, so we won't go through all of them, but we have selected 5 of the more classic SP Game Used cards and checked recent eBay sales to get an idea of their secondary market value a while after release. We've been trying to find comps of the 4 really big hobby stars in terms of collecting, so McDavid, Crosby, Matthews, and Ovechkin. Sometimes that hasn't been possible due to some of the cards being very low numbered, and then we've had to try to use a different player name instead. So for 2 of these 5 cards, you are quite likely to get one in your SP Game Used box. And for the other 3, I would say you would hope to get one of these in your SP Game Used box. So let's start with the 3 you would hope to get. So first up, we looked at net cord cards. So these are cards with a piece of the net from one of the goals from a particular game in them. And we found 3 interesting comparable sales here. One is an Austin Matthews out of 35 net cord card from the All-Star game. Keep in mind all of these are from 2022-23 SP Game Used. So Austin Matthews out of 35 from the All-Star game, last sold on January 23rd for $84. A McDavid out of 35 from the All-Star game, last sold on January 8th for $107.50. We also saw a Nathan McKinnon out of 25 from the Stanley Cup final that last sold on March 20th for $202.50. Again, like I said in the last episode, I failed to see how you associate a piece of the net in one of the goals with one specific player in a game that sees 40 hockey players and 4 referees on the ice. With that being said, there will be several sets of net cords in 2023-24 SP Game Used from different games and events, one of them being from Connor Bedard's first game, naturally featuring Bedard's name and picture on the card. The second card we're going to look at are the Supreme Patches, which feature actual game-used memorabilia and are a pretty huge chunk of jersey that's put in a card. So, like we also touched on in our deep dive of SB Game Used in our last episode, something that surprisingly enough isn't all that common in this product is to find actual game-used memorabilia, despite it being called SP Game Used. There's a lot of manufactured memorabilia going on here. And if you want to hear more about this, then check out our deep dive in episode 2. So anyway, for these 4 players that we're trying to find comparisons for, we found an Ovechkin Supreme Patches out of 15 that sold for $123.50. The third and final of the Hope to Get cards are the Draft Day Marks, which is a classic installment of SD Game Used. They are Letterman patches out of 35. So there's a letter of the player's name put in a card. Now keep in mind that these are manufactured patches. So it's manufactured by Upper Deck. The letter has never been on a jersey or anywhere near the player. Still, they are autographed by the player, and the player has signed their auto on the letter. So in a product where most of the autos are sticker autos, here you have an actual on-card or hard-signed auto. They have, however, signed their autograph not on the card, but on the fabric of the letter, which makes it dilute a bit. But these are out of 35, so 1 card for every letter in the player's last name. And most of the better rookies here from 2022-23 SB Game Used, their cards are somewhere between $100 and $200 for one of these cards, with the occasional Bedard-mania's cards reaching above $200. Right, so that was the 3 Hope to Get cards. Now let's look at 2 Likely to Get cards. So Banner Year is another SB Game Used classic, which basically contains some sort of fabric used somewhere around an event, such as the All-Star Game or the Winter Classic. This memorabilia is even more disassociated with a specific player than the net cards, but apart from base cards, which you will get in a box, this and the All-Star jersey cards are probably the most likely card to show up in your box. And these are not numbered, so print runs are unknown, but likely high. And we looked at 3 different players here for Banner Year cards from 2022-23. Nathan McKinnon had a Banner Year card for last sold for $7. Ovechkin had one last sold for $4. And Austin Matthews had one last sold for $1. And the final card we're taking a look at is the All-Star jersey cards. So memorabilia actually worn during the All-Star event by the actual player. All-Star jersey cards. They can be from the skill competition, they can be from the All-Star game, etc., etc. And we found several McDavid cards being sold for anywhere between $5 and $8, and several Austin Matthews cards being sold for anywhere between $6 and we had a high outlier here for $25. So that's it for our look at secondary market values of some of the classical SB Game Used cards for the 2022-23 release. We did our first Bedard-mania tracker in the last episode, which was 7 days ago. Then we had a PSA 10 base Young Guns pop count of 337 with a 51% gem rate for Connor Bedard's base Young Guns card. And we compared it to the 2 players that to our knowledge has the highest pop count for a base Young Guns card, Jack Hughes and Kirill Kaprizov. So Jack Hughes' Young Guns pop count last week was 4,884 at a 75% gem rate. And Kirill Kaprizov's Young Guns pop count was 5,005 at a 67% gem rate. So, 7 days ago, Bedard's PSA 10 pop count was 337. Today, it's 662. So it has doubled in a week. It has a 46% gem rate, which is down from 51% last week. So of the cards that have been graded the last week, slightly fewer has been graded a 10. My predictions in the last episode was that we will see a pop count of more than 10,000 PSA 10s before the end of the year, which would be double that of Kirill Kaprizov's total PSA 10 pop count. We're about 1/20th of the way there, but seeing as it's only the last of March and the pop count doubled in the last week, I'd say we have a fair shot of actually getting there. So what about prices? Last week we learned that the first public sale of a PSA 10 Bedard Young Gun was sold for $7,286, and that the last one sold when we did the research for our show last week sold at $1,729. On March 29th, there was a sale of $1,386.29, which is a drop of about 20% compared to 1 week ago. So it seems that the race down for pricing is continuing as the pop count rises, which would be a very natural development. The more supply available of PSA 10s, the lower the value of each card. The picture isn't all that clear though, as on March 30th, so 1 day later, there was a sale of $1,875. That's an increase of 8% compared to a week ago, but still down 75% compared to the first recorded public sale. We will keep tracking the pop count and the sales prices in episodes to come, so stay tuned as we join the road to 10,000 PSA 10s. Time for some hobby news. Last night, Auston Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs reached the 60-goal mark for the second time in 3 years, as he scored a goal in Toronto's 3-0 win over Buffalo. This puts Matthews in a tied 6th place for most 60-goal seasons of all time. Wayne Gretzky and Mike Bossy both have 5 60-goal seasons. Mario Lemieux and Phil Esposito have 4 each, and Brett Hull has 3. Also last night, the 2020 number 1 overall pick in the NHL entry draft, Alexis Lafreniere, had a career night with 3 goals and 2 assists in New York Rangers' 8-5 win over Arizona Coyotes. Lafreniere is having his best season of his career with 52 points in 74 games so far. His previous best season was last year when he reached 39 points in 81 games. Ivan Fedotov has arrived in Philadelphia, and the Flyers have sent netminder Felix Sandstrom to the AHL, indicating that Fedotov and Samuel Ersson will be sharing the responsibility of goalkeeping at this point. Fedotov was drafted 188th overall in the 7th round in 2015 by the Flyers and was intended to join Philadelphia 2 years ago when he suddenly was forced into a year of military service in Russia, followed by a year playing for CSKA Moscow. Fedotov is likely the tallest goalkeeper to ever play in the NHL at 202 centimeters or 6 foot 8 inches. Future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury is open to return to the NHL next season for his 21st season of NHL play. If that happens, it will be with the Minnesota Wild, as Fleury has stated he is not open to moving his family and kids again, stating that it's probably Minnesota or retirement. Fleury, who is 39, has had one of the worst seasons of his career in terms of stats, with his .899 save percentage being his lowest since the 2005-06 season. However, he has shown flashes of brilliance, as was the case in the first half of March when he put up a .936 save percentage over 6 games. That's it for episode 3. Thanks for listening, and if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment on the episode. Thank you.